Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're unpacking a pretty comprehensive report on depression that you shared, really aiming to get a clear picture of, what it is, how to spot it, especially for folks in Greater London, and crucially, where to find support.
Exactly. The idea is to sort of cut through all the information and just pull out the really essential stuff.
So first things first, what is depression, according to this report? It stresses it's not just like feeling sad for a bit.
Right. That's key. Both the NHS and the WHO definitions in the report emphasize it's about persistence. We're talking weeks, months, sometimes longer.
Okay.
And it's this sustained low mood or maybe losing interest in things you used to enjoy that really impacts your life. Work, social stuff, family life, it gets in the way.
So how do you tell that apart from, just having a really bad week or feeling down temporarily?
Well, the main things are duration, how long it lasts, and the intensity.
Yeah.
A bad mood might lift after a few days. Clinical depression, it sticks around, and it feels, heavier. It makes everyday things feel difficult. Plus, you usually see other symptoms popping up alongside it.
Like what sort of things?
Changes in sleep, maybe, or appetite. We'll get into those specifics.
Got it. And what about grief? Because that obviously involves intense sadness.
That's a really important distinction. Grief is a natural reaction to loss. It often comes in waves, maybe mixed with positive memories. Depression tends to be more pervasive, this constant cloud. With a real lack of enjoyment. And sometimes, sadly, thoughts about self-harm can feature in depression, which isn't typical for grief on its own. Though it's worth saying, grief can sometimes develop into depression.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the report mentions different types of depression. It's not just one thing.
Not at all. It's definitely a spectrum. Major depressive disorder, MDD, that's probably the most commonly diagnosed.
Yeah.
It involves these distinct episodes, weeks or months long, and can be quite severe.
Okay, MDD. What else?
Then there's persistent depressive disorder, PDD. That used to be called dysthymia.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
Yeah. It's more of a long-term kind of low-grade depression. We're talking 2 years or more for adults. Interestingly, someone with major depression on top of it, sometimes called double depression.
Wow, okay. Any others we should flag?
Well, seasonal affective disorder, SAD, gets a mention, linked to seasons, usually winter.
Right, the winter blues, but more serious.
Exactly. Low mood, loss of interest, maybe sleeping more, craving carbs. The report also briefly notes others like bipolar depression, perinatal depression around childbirth, PMDD. It just shows how varied it can be.
So given all that variation, how do we actually recognize the signs in ourselves or maybe someone else?
The report breaks symptoms down nicely into categories: emotional, behavioral, physical, and cognitive.
Okay, let's start with emotional. What does that look like?
Persistent sadness is the obvious one, but also losing interest or pleasure in activities that's technically called anhedonia.
Anhedonia, got it.
Yeah. Feelings of guilt, worthlessness, hopelessness, irritability sometimes. Anxiety often goes hand in hand with it. Low self-esteem, maybe being more tearful. Just a lack of enjoyment, feeling empty.
That description from the East London NHS Foundation Trust about feeling under a dark cloud really captures that, doesn't it?
It really does. Or like drowning. Very powerful descriptions.
Okay, what about behavioral signs? Things people do.
You might see withdrawal, pulling away from friends, family, social events. Changes in appetite are common, eating much more or much less. Same with sleep, either insomnia or sleeping way too much. Just general fatigue, lack of energy, neglecting hobbies, maybe performance dipping at work or school, and sometimes, unfortunately, increased use of alcohol or drugs or even self-harm.
It really affects every part of life, and physical symptoms, too. I think people sometimes miss those.
Absolutely. Headaches, stomach problems, general aches and pains that don't have another clear cause, that persistent fatigue we mentioned. Changes in sex drive are common, too. Even things like constipation or palpitations.
And finally, the cognitive stuff. How does it affect thinking?
This is a big one. Trouble concentrating, finding it hard to make decisions, memory problems, a sort of mental fog, maybe slowed thinking, and rumination, getting stuck dwelling on negative thoughts over and over.
Right, just going around in circles mentally.
Exactly.
Now, the report also points out that depression doesn't always look the same in everyone. Teenagers, men, older adults, it can present differently.
Yes, that's really important. In teenagers, you might see more irritability, maybe anger, rather than straightforward sadness. Academic performance might drop off. They might isolate themselves, become really sensitive to criticism.
And for men?
Sometimes men might express depression through anger or irritability too, maybe risk-taking behavior or throwing themselves into work or sports to escape. Substance misuse could be more common, or they might focus more on the physical symptoms. And tragically, the report notes men have a higher suicide rate.
That's a sobering point. And older adults.
With older adults, it might be less about sadness and more about emotional numbness or just apathy, a lack of interest. Physical complaints like fatigue, weight loss, sleep problems are very common. Sometimes confusion or cognitive difficulties, which can occasionally be mistaken for early dementia. Loneliness is a huge factor too.
So it's really crucial to be aware of these different phases of depression.
Definitely.
Okay, knowing all this, let's shift to support. Specifically within Greater London, what resources does the report highlight?
Well, the first port of call is often your GP. They can assess things and discuss options.
Right.
Then there's the NHS Talking Therapy Service, used to be called IAPT. You can often self-refer online for things like CBT. For urgent situations, there's the NHS Urgent Mental Health Helpline. Dial 111 and choose option 2. It's 247.
Good to know. And helplines.
Crucial. Samaritans are always there on 116 123, free 247. And Shout offers tech support. Just text SHOUT to 85258. Also, Mind has an info line for information.
And are there more local London-based organizations mentioned?
Yeah, loads. It gives examples like Mind in London, which has various local branches providing services. Southeast London Mind runs things like self-help groups. There's James's Place, specifically for men experiencing suicidal crisis. Kooth offers online counseling for young people.
It's quite a range.
Definitely. And it flags the Hub of Hope as a really useful online tool. You put in your postcode, and it shows mental health support nearby.
That sounds incredibly helpful. So wrapping this up, the main takeaway seems to be depression is serious, it looks different in different people, but it is treatable.
Absolutely. Recognizing the signs, whether in yourself or someone else, is the first step. And knowing that help is available in London is vital. Reaching out isn't weakness, it's a sign of strength.
A really important message. So, as a final thought for our listeners, perhaps reflecting on how connected our emotional, physical, and even cognitive health are, what's maybe one small, consistent step someone could take today just to nurture one aspect of their overall well-being? Something to think about. Thanks for this deep dive.
My pleasure. Important topic.